Welcome to Supply Chain Now, the voice of global supply chain. Supply Chain Now focuses on the best in the business for our worldwide audience, the people, the technologies, the best practices, and today's critical issues, the challenges and opportunities. Stay tuned to hear from those making global business happen right here on Supply Chain Now.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Scott Luden with Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's episode. So in this episode, we're talking with a supply chain leader on the move. He's going to inspire you. He's got a bunch of new ideas for industry, a lot of new inventive and creative ideas for industry. So stay tuned for what promises to be an intriguing and informative conversation. Hey, quick programming note. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to venture over to Supply Chain Now, wherever you get your podcast from. Subscribe so you don't miss conversations like this. And hey, we'd love to earn your review. Let us know how we're doing. And you can do that, of course, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast from. That helps us get the word out and reach more folks. Okay, I want to welcome in our guests here today. I've enjoyed a couple of pre-show conversations with Andrew. He is a recent graduate from the prestigious supply chain management program at Michigan State University that the world is familiar with. He has joined the team over at Nestle as a supply chain development program associate. And in a very exciting development and how we kind of initially got connected, he founded the National Supply Chain Foundation, where he continues to serve as CEO. So with that said, let's welcome in Andrew Chen. Andrew, how you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me, Scott. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. I see you got your Michigan State colors on. I love that.
Go green, always.
Well, beyond their supply chain prowess, one of the top schools in the globe for supply chain management, they also always feature one heck of a basketball team, amongst other things. So Did you ever attend many of those basketball games?
Yeah, Spartans, running basketball. We're always the Big Ten. The Big Ten, the conference has been really tough recently, but we're always up there. Football hasn't been doing too good, but we're sticking with basketball. I went to a couple games, so it was fun.
Outstanding. And it's neat where a lot of the world is kind of starting to get back and enjoying sports again and being able to do it so in person. Of course, we got to get the whole world there, but we will. All right. So I want to get to know you a little better before we start talking shop, so to speak. So tell us, where did you grow up, and share a couple of anecdotes about your upbringing?
Yeah, of course. So born and raised Metro Detroit area, lived in a city called Rochester Hills. It was very suburban, so to say. So in a sense, lived in a bubble, but very, grateful that didn't have to kind of go through many hardships growing up, given that, especially since first generation Asian American. So that's kind of where I grew up from. Always thought I was going to, growing up, always thought I was going to be in a field of science and a role of science, but ended up being in business. So, that's where it took me. And I think, combination of both, my parents instilling that stereotypical, mindset into me, and also really loved sharks, when I was little. So I think,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you shared it a lot there. I got to go back a little bit and dive a little deeper. So first off, you said you're a first generation Asian American. Is that right?
Yep.
So where did they grow up?
Yeah. So my parents migrated from China. My mom's from Shanghai and my dad's from Shenyang. So I don't know the exact dates when they came over, but they were born there, and then they had me and my siblings here in America.
And you, how many brothers, sisters do you have?
I have one brother and one sister, both older than me, and both went to Michigan State. So it runs in the family.
And then you also mentioned that you thought growing up that you'd be pursuing more of a science path, but of course you went business and supply chain management. What do you think tilted that for you?
Yeah, so I think, like I was saying, the reason why I thought I was going to be in kind of the science field was, stereotypical Asian American or Asian parents really like, their children to be in the STEM field. And I also, growing up, really liked sharks. So marine biologist was a dream job of mine, back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was that. And kind of, I think what veered me off was I just wasn't good at it.
Hey, I love that honesty. I'm with you. I was especially chemistry. I was terrible at chemistry. I got out of calculus as a senior in high school. And I started computer science when I started school at University of South Carolina, Andrew.
Oh, wow.
But I was horrible at the at just the building blocks you've got to learn and build upon so you can get into coding, C++ at the time and others. It was above my pay grade. So but I love that. And of course, the graduating from Michigan State with a supply chain management degree is very much so cachet. So looking forward to kind of seeing how your career plays out across global supply chain, especially with Nestle, a leading organization. So let's do this. We already talked about what you graduated and when you graduated. You just walked. Did y'all have a in-person graduation ceremony?
Yeah, we actually did. So really grateful that Michigan State was able to kind of come up with a plan to have, in-person graduation. They split us up. Instead of having one big one for the business school, it was split into majors, which honestly was better because it was like an hour long or 2 hours long. So really short. So it was about, 2 months ago.
Yeah. Okay. So man, you're freshly graduated from Michigan State.
Freshly graduated. Yeah.
What was your, so when you think through all the different classes you took and your teachers and different experiences that made up, your collegiate experience, what were a couple of your favorites?
Yeah. So a couple of my favorites would have to be, so procurement. I think procurement was, one of the big ones. Negotiations was another big one. And then last but not least, I'd say management strategy. So those three kind of make up, one of, I guess, the favorite courses at school.
So I got to make sure Kelly Barner with Buyers Meeting Point hears this. So procurement was at one of the top three of your experiences, and that's gonna make her day for sure. But you also mentioned management strategy. That's a great one and a curious one as well. What aspect of management strategy really was it? The curriculum? Was it the teacher? Was it kind of how the class was conducted? The topic itself? What was it?
Yeah, I think, well, with all three of them, I really think it was the teacher or the professor that made the course enjoyable. So a lot of interactive, things to do within the course while we were studying and everything. So that's kind of what the sole reason why those were top three. And then within management strategy, I kind of really like how at a high view you have to look at things and kind of make sure things align within the business and how that how competitively you play in the field and like where you play and how to play. So that's kind of what interests me with the strategy. So to
Wonderful.
say.
Did y'all talk change management much in that class?
A little bit of change management and how to kind of go about that with a lot of communication, and a lot of people don't like change. So
you're right. It's baked into us as humans, right? And I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing as you, I think you're in your second week right now as we record this with Nestle. I'm looking forward to seeing the change you drive in global supply chain as part of that team. Let's talk about first though, this National Supply Chain Foundation. So give us a little bit of the story of what led you to create it and what it is and maybe what's next.
Yeah, of course. So the National Supply Chain Foundation emerged, last summer when COVID was at an all-time high. And at that point, my internship was rescinded. So, and the reason why I came up with the National Supply Chain Foundation was, as a junior at that time, it was, studying this behemoth of a major with so many different career paths, and supply chain is so broad that I was kind of, I was in a lost space that I didn't really know where I wanted to pursue my career path. So that's kind of where this community lies, in a sense, to help students learn supply chain and network easily, where we're connecting students through, college students with each other, bringing in professional speakers, or even just simplifying supply chain through our newsletter. So
you found, if I heard you correctly, so this was summer 2020, right?
Yep.
Is that right? And you found, so just like you were trying to connect the dots across this massive industry that was that makes global business happen. Sounds like there was a lot of other folks that were, in school and your age that were also struggling to kind of connect the dots too. Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. It was trying to help other students in a similar position as me to kind of know what supply chain is, because it seems like, while I was thinking about this foundation, the three ways to kind of know or learn supply chain is, one, you're taking university courses, but some universities don't even have a supply chain program, and you can't take every single university course out there in supply chain, right? So that was one. Two, you do internships to kind of gain experience within a certain field. In a sense, it's difficult to get internships in general, even without COVID. But then with COVID, all of them being rescinded, it was just in a tough position to be in. So that was the second. And then the third is networking and being in a community to learn about supply chain. So that's where this kind of foundation lies, of trying to spearhead networking, speaking with other individuals in those different roles and learning from their experiences to gain knowledge within the field. So
it's wonderful. Let's see here. So I bet it was a tough day when you learned that your internship had been rescinded, right? Because so many students, including myself, really use that internship to get that practical world experience. That's important to helping you find a job. So I got to commend you. You kind of took those lemons you got from that and kind of took it to make lemonade with creating an entity that didn't just help you, but helped all the others that probably were dealing with, theirs being rescinded, and just the common challenge of kind of getting exposed to different aspects of this massive industry, huh?
Yeah, definitely. And with right now, we're sitting at around 200, in this community. We're thinking about, so right now it's a virtual community, of course. So we're thinking about transitioning to, say, a group chat or some sort of, physical community where we can kind of talk with one another more on a personal level, like, supply chain chow, and kind of learn about each other's personalities and everything. But with that value, bringing in, professional speakers to learn more about supply chain, kind of telling them to take initiative to connect with other college students to learn about their internship experiences and whatnot.
Wonderful. So kind of what I'm hearing there is what's next for the National Supply Chain Foundation. While it started at Michigan State University, this is an organization that you're leading, and you'll be leading into this next chapter as you find new ways of creating that valuable experience and that value prop for being a part of it. It sounds like y'all have got some big ideas to lay out there soon.
Yeah, really big ideas, and we're really, in a stage of kind of figuring out the structure. We're trying new things. We like to, we're a small group of individuals on my team, and we have innovative ideas. We pursue them. We learn. If they fail, we learn fast. We move forward, right? So that's where we take it. And although it did start at Michigan State, hopefully we can connect. Even though it's not affiliated with Michigan State and universities, but hopefully in the near future we'll be able to have communities across different universities, so we can connect ideas and kind of experiences with other college students from different universities and top supply chain schools.
I love it. Okay, let's talk about this. What's next for you aside from the foundation is this supply chain development program at Nestle. So tell us, what does this next chapter for you professionally look like?
Yeah, so you got it right. I'm a SCDP for short, Supply Chain Development Program at Nestle, and it's 3 rotations, 12 to 18 months within the end-to-end supply chain. So you kind of carve your own career path on what function you kind of want to be in. And for me, I'm in the technical procurement group, so doing procurement. So they're really interested in that field and going to be working on kind of capital equipment. So yeah, that's the beginning of my career path, and it's really about networking within the org to kind of see where you want to go next.
Love it. And so it sounds like it's going to be an opportunity for you to get a well-rounded introduction to real-world global supply chain. So a procurement forward position will be up first. What do you think will come after that one?
I don't know. It's up in the air, but I really like supply chain excellence. Utilizing my IT minor, my information technology minor that I had at Michigan State University to kind of connect automation the innovative stuff with supply chain to enable it. And also, demand and supply planning is pretty interesting too for me. So, I mean, there's a lot, supply chain, there's so many different functions, and, you just can't really pick one until it comes to you and you decide what you want to go with.
I love it. So speak generally with me for a second. I love this program Nestle's got built. Cisco, CISCO. I worked for the other Cisco, the Cisco food company, but Cisco, the technology company, has got a very similar program that I've learned about. And it seems like it's part of a trend, which I love because of the different experiences it offers. Is this, does this type of program, do you think, really resonate with recent college graduates?
Yeah, I think, well, I don't know if it's starting to become more relevant, rotational programs, because the benefit of a rotational program is that it helps you learn the end-to-end of supply chain and have you experience different rotations to see what you like, and also have a more diverse portfolio as a supply chain professional. So you kind of learn that, or you gain multiple experiences and skills within, supply chain. And it's becoming more prevalent, to university students as they kind of dive into this field, because of course, like I mentioned before, and as always, it's a very, very complex role or field of study. And then within that, I think that the downside, or what people kind of are iffy about joining, is that sometimes it can be a long, you're committed to a long period of rotations, or you're in a location that you don't prefer. But it's really about, personal balance of, do you want to be in a specific role that you can see you can grow in, or a specific location. And I think you can find one that has the best of both worlds, whether that's Nestle, Cisco, or other rotational programs out there.
Love that. Okay. So I want you to finish a sentence. So based on all of your experiences and education, now your early practitionership, I want you to finish a sentence for me. So global supply chain would be better if
it can adapt and be ready for anything.
And and including pandemics or whatever disruption is thrown away, because Andrew, while we all hope and pray, knock on wood, that the next pandemic will be a long time from now, but disruption is continuous. It's just the kind of the type of disruption and to the extent. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe, that's absolutely correct. And it's not even, we do know, pandemics can affect us like this now, but it's the things that we can't see that we have to be more aware of and kind of resilient. And, if a supply chain can adapt to anything, then I'd say we're safe. But it's about finding issues that we can't see.
Yeah. Nice. Great point. And learning. And, one of the really important things I think we as business leaders, we've got to be sure not to miss out on, and from this pandemic is that let's take these tough lessons learned, very difficult lessons learned, right? Learn from them and apply true fixes, right? Not band-aids, hoping and praying that, the pandemic is over and we can get back to business as usual. There's no room for that type of thinking. We got to really, to help be prepared for what, as you say, is unseen. We've got to really work on instilling and building true resilience. We've heard that word 100,000 times into these global supply chains, right?
Yeah, correct. And I think with all that being said, it comes down to data. Data is king right now, and with being able to see that data and react quickly to the changes of that data, and then create a plan to move forward. To adapt to that, I think will be great for supply chain, but it's difficult, it's challenging, and I think there just needs a lot of teamwork to be able to pursue.
I'm with you. I'm with you. That's one of my favorite aspects of global business, but certainly global supply chain is people still make it happen. All the technology in the world, it's really impressive, but there's so much opportunity for people. I was on a live stream earlier today, and a technologist was sharing about how, let's leverage technology to take care of the blocking and tackling the mundane activities that no one wants to do these days, right? And let's use that to empower and free up your people that know the business and can come up with new ways of serving the customer, new ways of doing things, and just frees them from the burden of got to make the donuts. That's really that augmentation aspect of technology is really what excites me a lot. What about you?
Yeah, I agree 100% about that technology. And I know, with change again, like some supply chain professionals are scared of that, automation and bringing that in because, some say it might take away their roles or so to say. But I think it's not really taking away their roles because it's doing all those mundane tasks that allows them to creatively think and have a more strategic output instead of, not wasting time, but, doing those tactical day-to-day duties.
Right. Let's let the supercomputers or the quantum computers or whatever they are right now do their thing. Right.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I want to ask you, I'm sure you're studying global industry now that you're officially part of it. What's a couple of business issues that might be on your radar more than others here lately?
Maybe not, so to say, business issues, but two that, I've been tracking or on top of mind right now is one recently is actually a new variant of COVID called the Delta variant. And I think I read it was 60% more infectious. So definitely, curious or to see, how that's going to affect, coming into the fall, the more colder season and, what universities are going to do, especially if it, becomes another outbreak. But I'm sure hopefully we'll be able to contain that. And that's just kind of, a virus can adapt and mutate to a new variant. And I think that kind of translates to supply chain as well, where, you have to adapt and be better than your competitors and so to speak. So making that connection there as well. So, yeah.
I'm with you. I'm hoping that these variants are scary things, especially as you start to kind of catch your breath a bit because we think we're, past the worst of it, but this Delta variant, it's been interesting to see. So before I talk Eureka moments, any other business topic that you're kind of tracking right now?
And one more thing that I'm tracking that was, all over the place a couple months ago is NFTs. So non-fungible tokens, not really a business issue, but, something that's, that's been popping up in every news and blockchain and everything. And I don't, I'm not an expert in it, but it seems like it's a virtual one of a kind. And it really shows, or to me, it really shows a glimpse of what the future can look like. And how much, where innovation can take us, and how we can connect that with, business issues, business needs, or even, personal choices.
Yeah, well said. I'm like you. I'm not a cryptocurrency expert, but I've been kind of learning and doing my own homework because, like you said, I really think, and there's many folks that are absolutely committed that is a snapshot of the future, especially as blockchain continues. And it's just one of the things associated with it oftentimes continues to make new strides in its practicality and impact. But cryptocurrency is a fascinating thing. Thing to understand just kind of how it's, how it's mined and how it's exchanged and just how it's changing commerce and transactions as we know it,
Yeah, it's complex in itself and there's a lot of nuances within that space still. But being able to learn that and just diving deep and being curious in that field, I'm sure it has a lot of strides to take and it'll take you places too.
Yes. Bitcoin, Elon Musk, I swear he must be the most powerful person in the world. He puts a tweet out there and markets shift. It is fascinating.
With Dogecoin too and all the other different types of currencies out there.
It really is. It is a crazy age we live in here. Okay. So you strike me as someone that can be deeply introspective and reflective. Is my hunch. We'll see if I'm right. One of the things we love talking about here are Eureka moments, right? We have, some days you have dozens of them, especially here lately. But what's been one Eureka moment that stood out to you? Maybe one that especially tied to this pandemic age.
I'd say one that tied maybe to this pandemic, or one really recently, and it kind of relates to, even without a pandemic, as a general, human, and kind of as a population in a business field or a business mindset, is learning effectively takes time. I say, and I want to put that word effectively in there, because some people can learn fast, and that's great. But if you really want to understand something, it takes time. And what really showed me, or reflected on that, since being so new to Nestle, and with the 2 weeks of onboarding, I've discovered so far, is that Nestle in itself, there's so many moving parts that I'm trying to be familiar with. And on top of that, got to learn my procurement role, right? So it's just going to take time, and I have to really adapt, or embrace this, growth mindset. Learn, take risks, learn from my failures, learn fast and fail forward, but also be humble in a sense. And I think there's a saying that I really enjoy, that, you may be smart, but other people have been smart longer. So you have to kind of, take that all into account, and just be humble, and kind of set your head down and move forward, and kind of learn the day-to-day activities, and just learn about, what's going around you, and understand, being empathetic towards, everything, especially during a pandemic too.
Wow, man, you've like got an old soul, wise beyond your years. I love that. Other folks have been smarter longer. I'm gonna steal that from you, Andrew. All right, so I want to insert one more question here. So, if you want to give a shout out, and we don't have to name last names, but any new colleagues that you've met as you've joined the Nestle team that you've really enjoyed, rubbing elbows and exchanging perspective with already.
Yeah. So my whole, shout out to my program manager, Steve, who's been taking care of us SCDPs. So the class of SCDPs, there's like 7 of us, and they're all from, different universities. A lot of names, but, my whole class of SCDPs really was able to kind of pursue this orientation with them. A lot of meetings back to back with them, just hearing their insights and experiences about, what they went through, and also how they like, the organization as well. So that was that. And I did have a chance to speak with the chief procurement officer at Nestle as well.
Wow.
One-on-one. Yeah. And he had a lot of great insight. And I hope to, make that connection with them moving forward too. So that's been great.
That is awesome. I love that access to leadership, and access to the newest team members. That's a great two-way street. Anyone from Michigan? Oh, Big Blue. And would you still work with them and give them a hug, or is the rivalry too strong?
I'd say, well, if we're talking about sports, I might not talk with them. I might not even look at them, but they always like to say we're the little sister or little brother. But in a business setting, when collaboration is key, they have their insights, diversity of thought, being in from a different school, different background, and I think working with them and meeting hands together is always key. But sports wise, that's a different story. We're taking them down always.
I love that, and I love your perspective there. Our differences do make us stronger, make us more innovative, and it's also the spice of life. And it's still fun to enjoy those on the football field and the basketball court. Fun to enjoy those arch rivals. Okay,
Definitely.
You got a ton of stuff going on. I really, again, admire all that you've accomplished, especially during these crazy times. I'm really excited to kind of see what's next for the National Supply Chain Foundation, and as your career and profession continues to unfold, we'll have to have you back and get some of your early learnings. But how can folks connect with you if they want to compare notes, or they want to get involved in the foundation, or what have you? How can folks connect with you?
Yeah, definitely. My LinkedIn is always open to messages, so feel free to message me there. You can find me at Andrew Chen at MSU. Probably would pop up there, or my actual username is Andrew-Lu Lu-Chen Chen. So connect with me there. Feel free to message me just to connect. We can have a one-on-one coffee chat, or if you're interested in the National Supply Chain Foundation, feel free to message me, and I can kind of direct you that way.
Wonderful. And of course, listeners, we're going to make it really easy. We're going to feature those links on the episode page, on the show notes, so that you can connect with Andrew. Or Andrew Chen, it is a pleasure. It's great to connect with you prior to today, but I was really interested in kind of hearing your thoughts on some of these questions here today. And you've exceeded. Really enjoyed this powerful, albeit brief, conversation. You got a ton of things going on. Are you finding the need to have some clones for tackling all that you're up to?
I wish I did have some clones that would, do some of the day-to-day stuff, but I think just keeping organized and just doing stuff in a timely manner, being effective and efficient is how things run. But there's a lot of mistakes that are being made. I'm like moving forward, just learning. I think life's just all about learning, I guess.
I'm with you. Spoken like an old soul. I love that, Andrew. I love that about you. Well, hey, man, we wish you all the best. We're going to keep our finger on the pulse of the things you're up to. We'll have to have you back on, especially as things continue to evolve and unfold. Really appreciate you sharing your time here today on Supply Chain Now.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate you having me on here, Scott. It was great connecting with you again.
So, folks, hopefully you've enjoyed this conversation as much as I have. When you got bright people like this coming into the global supply chain profession, things are going to be good. And it gives all of us a lot more confidence in getting through these challenging times. Those that we know, and of course, those that we don't know, more disruption and change around the corner. Hey, if you enjoy this conversation, be sure to find Supply Chain Now wherever you get your podcast from. Subscribe so you don't miss a single conversation. Be sure to connect with Andrew Chen and the National Supply Chain Foundation. And if you do anything else, very important, on behalf of our entire team here at Supply Chain Now, this is Scott Luton signing off for now. Hey, do good, give forward, and be the change that's needed. Be just like Andrew. And we'll see you next time right here at Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for being a part of our Supply Chain Now community. Check out all of our programming at supplychainnow.com and make sure you subscribe to Supply Chain Now anywhere you listen to podcasts. And follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. See you next time on Supply Chain Now.